Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn here with Prawn News, the most interesting tech stories that I found that hopefully you'll find interesting too. And I want to kick this off by saying that in 2025, Nvidia is planning to launch into the CPU market, which is insane and really interesting, I think. Not insane in that it's a bad move from Nvidia, but it's going to be really interesting for the PC gaming arena because this is the first time that Nvidia has got into doing CPUs alongside its GPUs. And we all know how dominant Nvidia is in the GPU space. Now it's looking to compete with Intel and AMD. It's going to be ARM-based processors, which means that they're possibly going to be having a mobile spin to them, so laptops. That's my gut feeling. It might well start off with laptops, but who knows? We might be looking at CPUs from Nvidia with integrated GPU technology, which naturally makes sense, competing on desktop level as well with AMD and Intel. Now, considering how badly things are going for Intel at the moment, this could be a real danger time in 2025 and beyond. So according to the stories, we're looking at the end of 2025, September, and then into March of 2026 as well. There'll be more going on there, and Nvidia is planning on making the most of not only its GPU technology but also its power in AI, because Nvidia's been doing really well not only on the desktop side of things with graphics cards, but also in the business side of things with AI technology as well. So that's why Nvidia's been doing so well on the stock market, is that AI focus and other things in there. So this is potentially really interesting. Now, if you watched Prawn News before, you'll know that I'm all for competition, and it's going to be really good potentially to have extra competition. I've said repeatedly that I really like that Intel's moving into the GPU space with discrete graphics cards. And I want to see more of that, because if you've got AMD, Nvidia, and Intel all working on GPUs, then potentially that will help with the price wars and make things more competitive for all of us and give us more choice. So seeing Nvidia going into CPUs could also be beneficial for the same reasons, which could be great. What do you think though? However, what might not be great is the price of the next Nvidia GPU. So apparently we're looking at launch in early January, or at least the reveal in early January, of the RTX 5090 and the 5080 is expected that very early in January at CES they'll get announced, and then the 5090 will be shipping around the end of January, but we're probably looking at about $2,000 for a 5090, which is obviously insane. Now, as I've said before, your average gamer doesn't really need a 5090. It's really for the people that want a flagship device just because they can say they've got one, or people that are looking to do something insane like gaming in 8K, or obviously, you know, if you're using your GPU for productivity reasons, video editing, rendering, gaming development, things like that, anything sort of high end. So maybe not a problem. Hopefully the 5080 won't be quite so much, but let's face it, Nvidia's been pretty consistent with its incredible pricing, I want to say, very expensive pricing on the GPUs. So we're looking to see those early January. And the thing that I found interesting is previously the news was basically that it was the 5090 being announced in January. That was what had launched first. But now the word is that the 5080 will also be launching early then. So if you want something more affordable, but still flagship, obviously, then January is what to look for. And let's face it, that's not far away now, is it? So that's exciting. It's a long-running joke that McDonald's ice cream machines are never working. And the reason for that is quite simple. Basically, there is an official partner in the form of Taylor, who is the machine supplier for the various franchises. And they're the only ones licensed to be able to fix the machine. So if something goes wrong, the franchisees have to rely on this company to come and fix the machine, and they'll have to take time to do it, which is why there's a problem. Basically, people that work at the franchise can't fix it themselves, and they can't get an independent person to come and fix it. Now, the US Copyright Office has said, actually, this needs an exception on it, so it is possible to be able to do. The thing that's interesting about this, though, is that iFixit was the company that's trying to help with this, but unfortunately, they can't yet properly, fully. So although there's been an exemption granted, they can't actually sell the products to help people to be able to fix their ice cream machines. But it's an interesting first step in what could possibly be a fix for ice cream in the future. So if you love ice cream from McDonald's, then this is good news, I think, hopefully. In hilarious news, Russia's trying to find Google more money than there is in the entire world. And this is down to basically how YouTube has been restricting Russian state news channels on its platform since the war in Ukraine, and also a bit before that as well. And basically, Russia has said that they're fining Google a ridiculous sum, which is a 2 followed by 36 zeros. And that's a lot of money. It's considerably more than the $2 trillion that Google's worth. And it's said to be more than the basic entire GDP of the planet. So it's sort of so daft that obviously it's never going to happen. But it's interesting, perhaps. There's been restrictions on 17 Russian media channels on YouTube, basically not allowing the publication of content. So this is the reason why. And also Google's subsidiary got bankrupted in 2022 in Russia as well. So there's been some interesting sort of sanctions this way and that, but a ridiculous problem there for Google. Maybe. Talking of problems, Windows 11 updates have been causing blue screens of death and crashes for a lot of people. This has actually been reported several times, and I'm mentioning it because someone on my Discord was having issues. I thought it was worth raising. But essentially, there have been a number of different problems recently with updates from Windows causing issues. Now, this raised its head with the latest Intel release and Z890 motherboards, where there was a conflict caused not only by that, but also by Nvidia's drivers and BIOSes as well. So essentially, because there's an integrated GPU on some of the processors, that was having problems with a discrete GPU. It's causing boot loops, causing problems and blue screens and other things. This was actually pinned on Microsoft because of the Windows 11 update, but also since then there's been BIOS updates. So if you saw some of those early reviews, you might have seen people talking about the issues with the Z890 motherboards. Since been fixed, I think, with BIOS updates. I've been using a Hero motherboard and not had the problem because I did the BIOS update. And obviously there's been Windows updates fixes since. But there's been a number of other issues with Windows updates as well. There was a story a while back about if people were running WD Black NVMe SSDs, those also were causing problems and getting blue screens. Very specific problems for specific users, but not great if your PC is suddenly problematic, especially if you're running a 13th or 14th gen Intel CPU. You might be worrying your CPU's broken, when in fact it's just a Windows update that's causing the problem. So there's been so many issues lately for PC gamers. It's not great. Talking of issues, Nvidia has said that you must update your graphics drivers now because they've discovered some high-risk vulnerabilities that could allow hackers to get into your system and cause problems. So there's a whole update from Nvidia on this with vulnerabilities that are pretty severe, and you need to update your drivers right now. So that's the crux of the story. Take that with you. Go and update your drivers right now. If you've got an Nvidia RTX or older GPU, and this includes the Quadro NPS GPUs as well, so it's all sorts of GPUs, not just the gaming ones, it's all of Nvidia's GPUs. You need to make sure your drivers are updated. Very important. A former Bethesda dev thinks that Starfield 2 is going to be pretty amazing. One hell of a game, apparently. Now, this is interesting because I really like Starfield, but obviously it's had very polarizing reviews and people either loved it or hated it. And there's been the Shattered Space DLC update, which is expensive and also got some pretty bad reviews. And there's been a lot of complaints about Starfield in general. As I said, I really liked it. I got into it in a big way. I spent a lot of time playing it and I quite enjoyed it. It could have been a lot better. I think they missed opportunities. If it had taken more of a No Man's Sky route in terms of being able to land on planets and other things, it could have been good, or it could have been a lot better. But it was still an enjoyable game in a lot of different ways. Now, this dev from Bethesda is saying essentially that Starfield 2 could be better because they're learning a lot from Starfield, from the feedback on it and what they've done building it. And when they're crafting the next game, whenever that comes, probably in about a decade, then they obviously have a foundation to start on. And the point was that, you know, Skyrim was really good because of the games before it, and Oblivion and Morrowind, and those steps led to Skyrim being, you know, so solid and much loved by everybody. So the same logic could apply to Starfield in that we could see better and better games in future. And I think this is a good thing. What do you think? Do you think Starfield 2 will be worth a look? And how long will we have to wait for it? So I was talking about bad news for Intel in terms of Nvidia releasing its CPU offering in 2025, but we're still hearing more rumors about Arc GPUs and Battlemage coming early next year as well. So once again, as I said, this is going to be good news because obviously more competition. But the downside here is there has been some word from Intel in their quarterly earnings calls and discussions there that they're going to basically focus on doing less GPUs, so less of them, which might mean less partners, but also they're also going to integrate, so you're going to have more integrated GPUs as well, which essentially I think reads as basically for laptops, you're going to see more hardware there, but maybe won't see as much in the way of desktop GPUs. It looks like there will still be some, but just not a massive amount of them, which I think is a shame, but it's good that they're not abandoning it completely, which I wouldn't have been surprised by with how things are going at Intel at the moment. There's been a lot of layoffs and other things. Obviously, the recent launch of the Core Ultra series didn't go well. There are a load of other problems Intel's having. It's not been a good year for Intel, and so it is good to see that maybe in 2025, hopefully they'll be pushing this out as well. So I don't think it's the end of Arc, which is definitely a good thing. I recently talked about how Coolermaster has allowed people to buy the Sneaker X, which is that PC case shaped like a trainer, and now they're allowing people to buy the case shaped like a shark. So a while back, I did some news on this, basically talking about how you could get this shark-like PC for a ridiculous expensive price. And now you can get just the case. So the Shark X, as it was known, was $7,000, and it came equipped with a pretty good setup with i7-14700F processor, 4070 Ti, etc. But now they're making it available through a very limited Japanese retailer, and you can get it for 658,000 yen, which is about $4,300. So that's just for the case. You know, obviously, once again, just like the Sneaker X, ridiculously expensive, but really awesome. I really like this Shark one. I think it looks pretty cool. Obviously, I don't have that sort of money to be able to buy one of those. Things are going great for AMD, it seems. The Ryzen 7 9800 X3D has been getting fantastic reviews across the board. I'd recommend checking out the reviews if you've not seen them already, but it looks like essentially if you're a gamer, then AMD is winning. AMD is the way to go at the moment. For productivity, not as much necessarily, but for the gaming side of things, it's been a massive increase in performance over its previous generation, but also versus Intel's 14th gen and the Core Ultra series as well. Winning in terms of efficiency, but also in terms of performance. So it's looking great for AMD. If you're an AMD fan, this is good news, and it's basically good news for gamers. So I'm probably going to get one of these CPUs in, and a new motherboard as well soon, so I can do some builds with it. And let me know in the comments, are you excited for this? Have you been waiting for this? I know some of my viewers have. That's all for this week's Prawn News. Hope you enjoyed it. Check out the links in the description to the full stories. And thanks very much for watching. Have a great weekend.